Welcome to Graphic Studio Gallery's interview series. Since COVID-19 pandemic crisis started, physical access to the gallery has been paused, as well as the access to the studio for artists. Printmaking requires studio facilities without which the artist's working process is challenged or completely impossible. To stay in touch with our artists and present for our audience, we have decided to feature one artist at a time by highlighting their work on our social media and online shop. First featured artist is Dublin-based printmaker, member of Graphic Studio Dublin, Louise Leonard, whom we are delighted to have here to talk about her work. Louise, how has lockdown affected your practice and thinking about making? Being unable to access the studio, have you been working on something else?
Well, Matea, I'm lucky enough to have a studio space at home, so I would quite often spend a lot of time alone working here, preparing drawings, maybe working on grounded copper plates or cutting lino. So I'm used to being on my own and working on my own in my own space. But I'd have to say the lockdown was such an initial shock, really, that I didn't make any work at all. I found myself unable to concentrate. And I spent the first couple of weeks really clearing out the studio and not being productive at all, although I suppose that is productive in a way. So I filled the green bin several times. I usually clear the studio when I start on a new piece of work, but this was more of a major purge. So now I've kind of settled down and I'm working on some lino cuts. So I can cut the linos at home, but I really like to get into the studio to print them, and I'm missing the studio a lot, really. The camaraderie, I think, in the studio I miss more than anything. I obviously miss the press, but I miss the company too.
Apart from different environment and changes in your daily making routines and social aspect of working in the studio, it sounds like it has been more of a natural progression of your practice rather than working on something completely different.
It has really. It has stymied my practice in so far as that I can only get so far with cutting and drawing. I really need to get in and print and etch. I mean, I don't have any acid facilities at home or anything like that, but I have continued. Yeah, I am continuing to work, and there's the new Makuhangu exhibition that's coming up in May online in the Graphic Studio Gallery online. That's a brilliant new departure to have an exhibition online like that. So I'm looking forward to finishing a piece for that, coordinated with the gallery and Kate McDonough, who's the Makuhangu queen of the Graphic Studio. So that's something to focus on, and that's good, I think, to have a focus for the work. A deadline is always a good thing.
Your work frequently depicts open spaces where one might expect to find people walking or spending leisure time. Can you tell us about how you decide what you depict and what you hope to encapsulate in your imagery?
Well, I walk a lot. I walk a lot around the neighbourhood here where I live, and we have a great selection of open spaces. So really, I'm just reacting to my own environment. We have the Royal Canal runs behind where I live, my house. The Botanic Gardens, the Blessington Street Basin, the Phoenix Park. They're all within walking distance. So I would use those amenities a lot, same as all my neighbours. So I always would have my phone with me, whatever about bringing a sketchbook with me. I mean, I don't really have time to be sitting at the canal, nor the inclination, to be honest, to sit at the canal and sketch. I usually do that when I'm away, but I always would have my phone with me and take photographs all the time, just constantly looking around. and something will just hit me about the vista, whatever it is. It's different every day. I walk the canal most days, and it's different every day. It's really familiar, but you know, the light, the reflection on the water is different each time. So I suppose I'm just looking, and I know as soon as I come across something catches my eye, and I know immediately that's a print. And I know as well whether it's an etching or a lino. I just get a sense. I don't know why. I just have a sense of which medium will suit, you know, that what I've seen and what I want to depict.
Great. That was actually my next question. Since, as you mentioned, you work into different printmaking techniques, lino cut and etching, can you talk a little about your choice of the medium, differences and possibilities? How do you recognize what scene you're going to depict in which, and how you transition from one to another?
I don't have any problem transitioning between the two media. We go on holidays a lot to Austria in the winter, and there's something about the stark quality of the snow and the local style of architecture and folk art. It lends itself very much to lino cutting, and that kind of very striking graphic image that is very typically alpine. I have made lino cuts of those scenes, and they just seem to work. I've also made etchings of the snow as well, but etching allows you to put a lot more detail in the drawing, and I like that. And you get more variety of texture with etching. You know, you can do sugar lift or spit bite, or you know, a close line drawing or open bite. There's lots of variety. Whereas with lino, once you cut, it's gone. There's no going back from lino. It's very cut and dried, literally. I've made a lot of lino cuts of birds because I love the kind of very graphic shape of a bird. You know, it's either a proper bird or it's not. You know, it either looks like it could fly or whatever, or it doesn't. So I just love the kind of the graphic quality of that, and how much it's suited to lino cutting. I kind of know when I'm making a drawing, or when I'm making a drawing or taking a photograph or whatever, I know which medium will suit it better.
And how do you feel about mokohanga, Japanese water-based woodcut that you have recently introduced into your practice?
Oh, I'm very excited about that. It's funny when you roll on ink on a lino. It's very you're sure what you're going to get. With the mokohanga, the cutting is lovely, and the cutting is very familiar. Although it's harder to cut wood than it is lino, but the cutting part is very familiar to me. But the inking is quite different and quite a new challenge, and can be a bit frustrating. You know what you have in your head, what you want it to look like, but it doesn't always turn out like that. You know, you have lots of permutations of the how much nori paste you put on, how much pigment you put on, how you brush. So I need to practice that now before the exhibition comes off. It's a very nice new challenge. I'm enjoying it.
Tell us about your latest series of etchings, works from your recent solo show, A Body of Water. What was your motivation and thinking process behind making? What differentiates it from your previous work?
Well, I don't really see it as different from my other work. I think it was just that I took the time to make a body of work that was all on the one theme. You know, I didn't skip off and do any kind of lino cutting, or, you know, in that time I focused very much on the 12 pieces that I had decided I was going to work on. But they're similar in theme to my other work. I mean, I always am interested in those, in nature, really. And most of my interaction with nature is in the city, is in those city spaces. but really, I just love trees and the natural world, trees and animals and birds. I just love being out in that environment. And my opportunity to be in nature, living in the city. I mean, we live quite close to the city centre, so I'm very grateful to have natural places to go to so near the city. And I love parks, and I think it's really important. And I think a lot of municipalities, I suppose, around the world, like Rome and Paris. And London, all the big, and New York. I've never been to America. I've never been to New York, but I know that all those parks are really important to people's mental well-being and physical well-being. That's just vital, I think. So it's just a continuation of that, of observing and portraying the natural world. It just happens to be mostly near the city because that's the way I live.
Thanks very much, Louise, for taking your time to talk to me today. It was really good to hear more about the thinking that goes on behind the scenes, and it's very good to connect what we see at the gallery every day with what goes on in your mind while you're observing world around you and thinking about making.
Thank you, Mateo.